Dying Light 2 was supposed to be the successor to the original Dying Light. A game that was supposed to improve upon its story, gameplay, graphics. But it came short on quite a few of what I've just said. So today, I would like to give you my review on Dying Light 2. Now, Dying Light 2, I think, had a few good ideas going into it. Like, let's make a longer story. Let's make more endings. Let's make a game where your choices impact what happens with characters. The problem just comes down to you just don't get attached to the characters. In Dying Light 2, you play as Aiden, and his sole goal is to find his sister, who throughout the entire game you barely know anything about. Hell, you barely know anything about Aiden. And every single NPC and main character you meet doesn't really affect anything. Aiden, when he interacts with Lawan, is really just cringe. Because he barely talks to her and she kind of gives mixed signals on how she feels about Aiden throughout the entire game. And the combat in the game for Dying Light had a very fun combat experience where weapons had a not so clear but interesting weapon, or I guess damage rating. And weapons scaled with you depending on what level you were in combat. For Dying Light 2, the weapon system, with like how strong a weapon is much more straightforward. But the weapons feel more clunky. And honestly, they aren't as fun as the original Dying Light. And Dying Light 2 parkour is honestly kinda silly, because the very first thing you get with Dying Light 2 is this floaty jump. And I say floaty jump because that's all it really is.
Nothing to see after all.
A jump you get that just makes you float. Anyway,
What's going on here?
what does Dying Light 2 do good? I think they did good with their paraglider. And a bit of the combat is really the biggest upgrade, or not combat, but most parkour is actually an upgrade from the original game. With the paraglider adding new ways to get around the city. And adding more ways to use things around the city, like you can get jump pads and these kind of like sack things you can grab onto and use to land on the ground. And there are also...
Once upon a time, people only had bows, arrows, and spears.
Actually, yeah, you know what? That's all I have to say for that. But I think the game where it almost fully improves is on the game's graphics. Most character in the game and most of the places you can go in the game look visually appealing and very good. Like the town and churches and the water, all big improvements on Dying Light 1. And most characters are an improvement, some of them actually being better. like, much better. But then there are also some characters that look god-awful compared to Dying Light 1. And it's mainly just two. It is Spike, that you meet at the very start of the game, and you only get to see him for a little bit at the end. And also Lawan. Lawan is a very big character in the entire story. So it ends up being a problem that her character model just does not look good at all. Like, her character model looks like she came straight out of a goddamn comic book. Which that might not seem like a problem until you realize that the game is supposed to look realistic. Or at least try to be close to real. And that's where you start to see the game really at its weakest, is when its few characters don't end up looking good, to say the least. But yeah, that's my review on Dying Light 2. If I had to say one thing about it, it would be, don't get it unless you've played Dying Light 1 and really enjoyed it. Because I think, like, I don't think the game is absolutely horrendous. I just think that it's a downgrade in lots of the parts that made Dying Light, Dying Light. Anyway, so, if you haven't played Dying Light before, do not pick up Dying Light 2 until you try Dying Light. Because Dying Light still holds up to this day as an amazing, just, zombie game in general. And if I had to rate it as anything, I'd probably give it a... probably a 65%. Because of... just... it's not as good as Dying. Like, I wouldn't be super ecstatic to pick it up. I wouldn't be running over to the nearest GameStop or EB Games or Walmart to go pick up Dying Light 2 if I hadn't had it already. Anyway, yeah. If you made it this far, thank you. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe. And I would also like to hear about, how do you think about the video? Because I've never reviewed a game before, or reviewed anything before, so... if you could tell me if you want, like, tell me if it's good that I didn't script, or if you want me to maybe script it, or... you know what, how about we go one step, like, back, and how about you just tell me if you've played Dying Light 2 or not, and what you thought about it? Anyway, yeah, see you.